This year, the president has pardoned or shortened the sentences of more than 1,600 people. The latest pardon was for a cryptocurrency tycoon who is known as CZ. The company CZ founded, Binance, helped boost the profile of the Trump family's crypto firm, World Liberty Financial. He pled guilty in 2023 to violating anti-money laundering laws.
Right.
The government at the time said that CZ had caused significant harm to U.S. national security, essentially by allowing terrorist groups like Hamas to move millions of dollars around. Why did you pardon him?
Okay, are you ready? I don't know who he is. I know he got a 4-month sentence or something like that, and I heard it was a Biden witch hunt.
In 2025, his crypto exchange Binance helped facilitate a $2 billion purchase of World Liberty Financial's stablecoin. And then you pardoned CZ. How do you address the appearance of pay for play?
Well, here's the thing. I know nothing about it because I'm too busy doing the other.
But
I can only tell you that.
But he got a
No,
pardon.
I can only tell you this. My sons are into it. I'm glad they are because it's probably a great industry, crypto. I think it's good. You know, they're running a business. They're not in government.
And there it is. Donald Trump just admitted on camera that he pardoned someone without even knowing who they are. Not that he forgot their name, not that he's a little fuzzy on the details. He quite literally said, I don't know who he is, and I know nothing about it, about someone he personally pardoned. And just to be clear about what we're talking about here, Changpeng Zhao, or CZ, isn't some random low-level nobody. This is the founder of Binance, the world's largest crypto exchange, who pleaded guilty to violating the Bank Secrecy Act and enabling money laundering. He was sentenced to 4 months in prison, and Trump just pardoned him without knowing who he is, or so he claims. Now, as Norah O'Donnell pointed out right here in the interview, Zhao's crypto exchange Binance helped facilitate a $2 billion purchase of World Liberty Financial stablecoin. And who owns World Liberty Financial? Oh, right, that would be the Trump family. So just to recap, a convicted felon's company helps to pump $2 billion into Trump's family business, and then Trump pardons the convicted felon, and when asked about it, Trump's defense is, I don't know who he is. And so either Trump is catastrophically corrupt, that he's openly selling pardons to people who enrich his family, or he's signing pardons without even knowing who he is pardoning. Either way, pretty damn disqualifying. But here's where the hypocrisy becomes truly staggering. Do you remember when Republicans spent months absolutely losing their skulls over Joe Biden's pardons? Remember when they were convinced that he was using an auto pen to sign these pardons, and that the pardons should be illegitimate, and that this was all somehow the greatest corruption scandal in American history?
Yes, and I think that the DOJ needs to take this and run. John, we've handed this to Pam Bondi on a silver platter.
Yep,
we've done all the heavy lifting. We've done the depositions. We've combed through the emails. I mean, this is the hard, tedious work of an investigation. Now it's up to her to bring these people in. If there's anything in the report that's inaccurate, if there's anything in the deposition that we reported that are mischaracterized, now here's your opportunity.
But I think it's fair game to study all of this. After all, the auto pen was used. There's no question that, sadly, President Biden was in mental decline at that time. And so did he know what he was doing, particularly as relates to the pardons? And did other folks take advantage of that? Is there a real record to prove that certain folks were pardoned? You know, whether a pardon can be overturned, I think, is a big uphill climb. But it's certainly fair game to question all of this to make sure that the president at that time knew what he was doing and that no one was taking advantage of him.
So the pardon power, it's an extraordinary power, Manu. There are guidelines, both in the White House rules and I think in statute, although you have to check me on that, about how the pardon power is used and how the auto pen is used. There's no doubt the president can pardon pretty much whomever he chooses. But there's a real question is, what does it mean for the president to direct it? If you have a situation, this is unprecedented in our history, where you have real questions as to whether the president actually approved of the pardons that were signed off in his name. That's a major constitutional issue. And this may get sorted out in court.
And you'll be reporting on this all day, but the Oversight Chairman James Comer released a blockbuster report now on the Biden auto pen presidency. And this report includes 47 hours worth of transcripts and testimony revealing that every executive action signed by the auto pen without written authorization from President Biden should be voided. This is an unprecedented situation in American politics and government. The actions of President Biden simply were not all his own actions. And there are major implications to that, including all the pardons that he signed.
Every executive action signed by the auto pen without written authorization should be voided, including all of the pardons that he signed. That was Mike Johnson. I mean, these people were apoplectic. And yet now we've got Donald Trump on national TV saying, I don't know who he is, about someone who he himself pardoned. Not that he used an auto pen, not that he delegated the review. He straight up said he doesn't know who the person is by his own admission. So if anybody needs me, I'll just be here waiting for Mike Johnson and the pardon sanctity defenders and the GOP to speak up. Yep, just right here waiting. Any day now. So let me get this straight here. When Joe Biden potentially uses an auto pen to execute pardons that have been thoroughly reviewed by the Office of the Pardon Attorney, that is a constitutional crisis. But when Donald Trump pardons a convicted money launderer who just pumped $2 billion into his own family's business, and Trump doesn't even know who he is, that's just, what, Tuesday? According to a report from the Department of Justice, the pardon process is supposed to involve a rigorous review by the Office of the Pardon Attorney, which examines the case, the applicant's post-conviction conduct, and makes recommendations to the president. It is supposed to be a deliberate, thoughtful process, and yet here we have Trump essentially admitting that he skipped all of that. He just signed the pardon for a guy he doesn't know, who also just so happened to enrich his family to the tune of $2 billion. And this isn't even the most controversial pardon that Trump has issued. This is the same guy who pardoned Steve Bannon after Bannon defrauded Trump's own supporters, pardoned his own personal associates like Roger Stone and Paul Manafort, pardoned Charles Kushner, who's now his ambassador to France, pardoned George Santos, who was found guilty of fraud and identity theft, pardoned 1,600 insurrectionists. But the Zhao pardon might be the most brazenly corrupt of all, because Trump isn't even pretending that there's a legitimate reason for it. He's literally saying, I don't know who he is, which, if true, is bad enough. But of course, if it's a lie, and it very likely is a lie, then the egregiously corrupt pardon was, in and of itself, even worse. And here's what really gets me. Republicans used to at least try to maintain the pretense that they cared about corruption. But now they don't even bother. Trump can literally admit on camera that he's pardoning people that he doesn't know, people whose companies just dumped billions into his family business, and Republicans will either stay silent or find some way to defend it. I can already hear the defenses. Well, the president has absolute pardon power under the Constitution. Yeah, he does. But having the power to do something does not make it ethical. Or they'll say Biden pardoned his own son. Yes, and Democrats were willing to criticize Biden for it. There were God knows how many Democrats who said that it looked really bad. But you know what Biden didn't do? He didn't pretend to not know who Hunter Biden was. This Zhao pardon perfectly encapsulates Trump's corruption. You've got a convicted money launderer whose company facilitates a $2 billion transaction that benefits the Trump family, and Trump pardons him while claiming to know nothing about it. That's not a pardon, that is a transaction. That is a quid pro quo, which is par for the course for this president and his political party. So the next time a Republican tries to lecture you about corruption or the rule of law, remember this moment. Remember Donald Trump saying, I don't know who he is, about someone who he pardoned. Remember the $2 billion that was funneled to his own family. Remember the complete silence from Republicans in the face of all of that. Because when they accused Biden of using an auto pen, it was never about principle, it was always about power.